I was a freshman at a college in the Midwest, and I got placed in one of the oldest dorm buildings on campus. The place had a reputation for being a little rundown, but I didn't think much of it at first. My room was small, cozy, and I was just excited to start my college life. But then, things started happening. At night, I'd hear faint tapping sounds coming from the walls. First, I thought it was just the building settling, but it didn't stop. It got louder. Sometimes it sounded like something was scraping against the floor outside my door. One night, I woke up to the sounds of something dragging across the floor. I checked the peephole. Nothing. I thought I was just imagining it, but the next morning I found muddy footprints leading from my door to the window. It hadn't rained and I didn't open the door. After that, the noises kept getting worse. Sometimes it sounded like someone was pacing outside my door, just waiting. I couldn't take it anymore, so I moved out. I don't know what was in that room, but sometimes I still hear whispers when I'm alone. I never went back to that dorm. It was finals week, and I was in the library pulling an all-nighter. The place was practically empty except for one person, this woman sitting across from me at a table, buried in her books. I didn't think anything of it at first, but after hours of studying, I started to notice something strange. She hadn't moved. No page turns, no fidgeting. She was just sitting there, staring at her book. I figured she was probably just tired, so I decided to go over and check if she was okay. But when I got close, I froze. Her eyes, wide open but not blinking, and her hands were stiff, gripping the book like it was glued to her palms. I leaned in to ask if she needed help, but that's when she slowly turned her head toward me and whispered in this voice that didn't sound like her own, "You should leave. It's not safe here." I backed away, confused and freaked out. When I turned to leave, I heard something strange, a door creaking open, like someone was walking behind me. But when I turned around, there was no one. The next day, I asked the library staff about her, but they said no one like that had been there. The library had been closed for renovations for over a week. I haven't stayed in that library past dark since. I was living in a shared dorm room on the East Coast. My roommate, Emily, was quiet and always up late studying while I went to bed early. Everything seemed fine until I started hearing her talk in her sleep. At first, it was just mumbling, but after a while, it became full-on conversations. She'd argue with someone, pleading for them to leave her alone. I thought it was just stress, but it didn't stop. One night, I woke up to hear her speaking in a deep, growling voice. It wasn't her voice. It was distorted, almost like someone else was speaking through her. I shook her awake, but she didn't respond. She just sat up in bed, staring blankly at the wall. The next morning, I did some research. Emily's room had once been the site of a tragic death. Years ago, a student died in that room under mysterious circumstances. I confronted Emily about it, and she whispered, "I've been hearing them too. They won't leave me alone." I moved out a few days later. Emily stayed. I never saw her again. Some say she transferred to another school, but others believe she just vanished. I was a sophomore at a small university in the Northeast, living in a dorm on the top floor of an old building. The place always gave off this weird, off vibe. Creaky floors, flickering lights. Just that eerie feeling like you're not alone, even when you are. One night I decided to take a break from studying and went down the hall to grab a drink. When I stepped into the hallway, I saw something that made my blood run cold. At the end of the hall, just outside the reach of the light from the stairwell, was a figure. It was tall, shadowy, and I couldn't make out its face, but the way it was standing, motionless like it was waiting for me, made my heart stop. I thought maybe it was just a student coming back from the bathroom or something, so I started walking toward it. But the closer I got, the more I realized it wasn't moving, and it wasn't a person. When I was about 10 feet away, I stopped. I asked, "Hello? Is someone there?" No answer. It didn't even move. Then, without warning, the figure turned and disappeared into the shadows. I couldn't see it move. It just vanished. I ran back to my room, locked the door, and stayed awake the rest of the night. The next day, I asked around. No one had seen anything. The RAs just told me the building was old and played tricks on your mind. But I know what I saw, and I know I'm not going back to that hallway.